Welcome to the mini webinar series hosted by FirstEigen. I'm your co-host Seth Rao along with Anshuman Datta. And in each of these mini webinar series, we will take 20 minutes and cover an important topic and give you some key takeaways. And today's topic is autonomous data trust validation for Cloudera. So this is going to be in a little faster pace because we want to take just 20 minutes of your time and give you some important key takeaways here. Now, a few basic things out of the way. Who is FirstEigen? FirstEigen is a publisher of DataBuck with a singular focus on R&D and developing the best autonomous data trustability software in the world. We are based out of Chicago. We have over a dozen service partners who have worked with our clients in executing DataBuck, and our team members have experience resolving data validation issues across multiple data-sensitive industries. We have been recognized by Gartner, IDC, Eckerson, GigaOM, and others as being the best of the breed in the data trustability and data quality space. FirstEigen is a certified ISV partner of Cloudera. You can find us on Cloudera's vendor page. The link is right below on this slide. So, on to the webinar topic. What is Cloudera's superpower? Cloudera offers the freedom of choice to do analytics on any cloud, on any data, without any compromise. Their superpower is the ability to do analytics at a very deep level, extremely fast. And here's an example of what one of their customers says. It's OCBC Bank, and they attribute Cloudera Data Platform as being instrumental in their success on their AI/ML capabilities. AI/ML Cloudera enabler. Now, this is an example from Cloudera's website on multiple customers across different industries, including banking or healthcare or manufacturing. All of them talk about how Cloudera has helped them leverage AI, ML, analytics, business intelligence. Cloudera helps with accelerating your analytics. Now, for trusted AI, as Cloudera has pointed out, you need trusted data. Trusted data is the foundation for your analytics or for your AI/ML journey. With a greater move towards LLMs, trusted data has become very important so your LLMs or the ChatGPTs of the world do not hallucinate. So trusted data is the foundation to start with. Now, the challenge to establishing data trust is that the traditional approach is absolutely non-scalable and highly error-prone. Two of the biggest activities in the traditional data validation process is the ability to discover data validation rules, code it, test it, and then deploy it into production. And it takes anywhere from 4 to 8 weeks for the entire process to get completed. We have talked with multiple customers, including banks and telecom industries, and across the board, including manufacturing, healthcare, and others. What we see are the following. The challenges are all these companies have non-standardized custom data validation at different points in the pipeline. The process is very laborious. There is a heavy IT and data steward dependence. As a consequence, companies are able to validate only 10% of their data. 90% of the data is dark data. And what's even worse is that 80% of the time is spent on data validation. Data validation is janitorial work. You don't want to be spending 80% on janitorial work and 20% on your analytics, which is a true value-added work. So as a result, productivity using conventional, traditional approaches to data validation is absolutely low productivity, and it's also non-scalable. Now, silently but quietly, there has been a shift to a modern AI/ML-driven approach to data validation. It has taken one of the most laborious parts of data validation, which is the rules discovery, and it has automated that. And DataBuck is playing a big role leading that revolution. DataBuck automatically understands your data with no human input, and it recommends what are your critical data elements, what are the rules to be applied to those critical data elements, and what are the thresholds of acceptability for each of those rules. And you're going to see that in the demo. And it takes a process that would have taken 8 weeks per table to about 2 to 4 hours. It's an enormous jump in productivity. And DataBuck has automated the data quality and data trustability learning system. It's scalable to thousands of tables, and it integrates with any of your data governance tools or catalogs to make the data more meaningful and useful. So as a result, what you get is a highly scalable software process, which can give you very short time to value with low dependence on IT or other people, and it increases the productivity of your team enormously. And here is a very quick case study of one of our US customers. They use DataBuck to validate about 520 tables. The total time to onboard was about 120 hours, which is extremely small compared to what would have been the traditional approach. And within that time, the software understood their data and auto-recommended about 19,000 plus rules. Software was able to point out that there were many tables where the data trust score, which is measured from a 0 to 100, was low, that it is a cause for concern. These were not small tables. Some of them were large tables. And on the whole, DataBuck was able to save them about 40,000 hours of work if they had done it using a traditional approach. Now compare this with 120 hours that DataBuck took. 120 hours versus 40,000 hours in the traditional approach. Automation has enormous benefit. Will take you from 0 to 80. DataBuck can do 0 to 80 in 90 days. You can be in production in 90 days. Huge benefits. Now, with that basic introduction on DataBuck, I'm going to jump into a DataBuck demo. And what I forgot to mention is feel free to enter your questions in the chat window. And my co-host, Anshuman Datta, will be moderating it. At the end of this demo, he will take up the questions and he will parse out and we will answer them. Whatever we cannot answer, we will send it as an email to people who have registered on this call. So a quick demo of DataBuck. So DataBuck has a web-based UI. Now, as soon as you log in, what you will see is an executive dashboard. DataBuck is designed for multiple layers of people, starting from executives to managers to analysts. Covers all their needs. The very high-level executive dashboard tells you how much tables are there that you're interested in monitoring and how many are you actually monitoring. You'll see that there's a large chunk of dark data, and we see this quite commonly in most companies simply because they don't have the time and manpower to validate each and every table. You see the number of high trust tables, the number of records that were monitored, the number of issues that were detected. If these issues had gone downstream, it would have costed the companies about 238 hours to fix it or $20,000 to fix it. Enormous cost, even if a few issues get through at the end. You'll be able to see the enterprise level data trust score, how the DTS is changing over time. And DataBuck also gives you different issues. It slices and dices the data trustability into projects, into issues, and into what kind of table has those issues. Is it customer table? Is it a transaction table? Is it a product table? And so on and so forth. So DataBuck allows you to look at the trustability from various angles, depending on what is important to you. And you could use that to run your organization or help your organization get to a better state. Now, I want you to put on the hat of a data analyst. As a data analyst, you have been given a data table that you need to validate. What I'm going to show you is how extremely easy it is with automation to validate any data that lands on your table. Now, we see tables here on the left. We click on that and we get to this screen. It has a list of tables that have already been validated. We would say add a table with the blue button. Right? So we're going to go to tables. We're going to say add a table and watch how little information we need to give an automated software like DataBuck. Data source, and we're going to pick Hive Kerberos, and we're going to pick a Cloudera connection. And in this demo server, we have a few tables. We're going to pick something called load analytics, or what is powerful is DataBuck allows you to pick all tables within your schema. And you could have a few hundred tables, and we have customers who have had a cold start, who had 500 tables in a schema. You would simply click on this. All the 500 tables will get picked, and you could validate it in one go, which is an enormous productivity enhancer. You do not need to go through table by table, discover rules. So what the software does is it goes into the table, it understands the relationships, the patterns, and the trends statistically, and it creates a statistical model of the behavior of the data. So with just these 3 clicks, I have created a data validation for this Cloudera data source. And with this, I say submit, and the data gets queued up. The software now begins the process of understanding the data statistically and will go into recommending rules, and it'll code those rules, it'll execute those rules, and it'll give us the data trust scores. Now, we're not going to wait for this. This is going to get, this will start running as soon as the permissions are given. We're going to straight go into the insights here. And as soon as we click on insights, we see there are multiple modules that DataBuck offers. We're going to look at the data quality and the data trustability module. When we click on it, what we get is this. We straight come to this multiple workspaces that are available. You can pick any workspace that you're interested in tracking. And in that workspace, the software lists all the tables that are being validated, that are being available to be looked at. You click on this filter icon to customize the view to see a lot more information. So DataBuck, with just those 3 clicks, is telling you what are the tables that have been validated, what are the data trust scores, and at a high level, what checks data quality did it pass and did it fail. You could double click on any of this, and you'll be able to do a deep dive on each table. So when we click on the load analytics table, what DataBuck has done is, again, with just those 3 clicks and no other human input, we did not tell the software whether it was a financial table, a marketing table, sales table, operational table, or anything. We just said, here is the data, here is a source, validate that. It has fingerprinted it, statistically understood it, and it has created a profile. And in the profile, it has collected a lot of information on the table. And we could see a lot more information if we open this up. It has understood the behavior of each column. What's the data type? What's the min, max, standard deviation, percentile distribution? What are the patterns in the data table, and so on? It has also gone a step ahead and understood the relationship that exists between columns. It has understood the relationship that if a country is this, and if the column called LOB is this, then the column called entity must be this, and this is the predominance of that relationship. So the software has understood all of these behaviors, and it creates different rules. And these rules are then used to create the code. And for security reasons, I'll keep getting pushed out. So I apologize for that, but we will get to this very soon. So what the software does is once it has understood how the data behaves, it discovers those rules and it codes those rules automatically and it executes those rules. So the data trustability results that you saw was a result of that coding and that execution. So going back here, what you're going to see is in the rules, the software has multiple essential rules like completeness rules, which are the null checks, uniqueness rules, which are the duplicate checks, default pattern checks or conformity rules, consistency rules, and so on and so forth. It is also discovered for each of these rules, the software recommends what are the critical data elements of columns to run each of these on, what are the thresholds, and if it observes any patterns in those, it captures all of them. It also recommends advanced rules, and there are 6 different kinds of anomalies in advanced rules, like record count anomaly, drift anomaly, value anomaly, intercolumn relationship anomaly, and so on. And any rule that the software is not recommending can be custom entered. And you could go in, add a rule that you want. There are different kinds of rules like referential rule, cross-referential rule could be across tables. And you could also have direct SQL rules that you can enter. It's very easy. We're not going to cover it in this demo, but please feel free to reach out to us. We'll show you basically anything you can do with a traditional tool. You can do it here with DataBuck. Now, going back to the summary, again, it's extremely powerful that with just 3 clicks, you're able to onboard a data set for data trust monitoring. The software measures the data trustability at the schedule that you have asked it to monitor, and it'll give you detail on why the trust is high or low. On the left, you see the different dimensions of data quality. You see the data trustability for each of these, and the software has done a few magical things. For example, in the null and completeness check, it has auto-recommended that these 13 elements or columns be tested. And in the case of uniqueness, the software has auto-recommended that a column called transaction ID be tested. And it not only recommends the critical data elements for each of these, it then codes it and tells you how many of those records failed. And more is the number of failure, less is your data trust score. So when there are 0 records failed, the data trust score was 100% for data drift. As more records fail, you'll have a lower and lower data trust score. Now, the data trust score becomes a powerful language of communicating between departments, between teams, between team members, whether a data is usable, it is consumable for analytics or reporting. And as an analyst, you're interested in knowing not just what the data trust score is, but you're probably interested in knowing how do I go and fix it. DataBuck gives you that ability as well. If you click on any of these, for example, if you click on null completeness, what you will see is DataBuck has basically, when we clicked on null, it brought us to the essential results. It shows us all the different checks it has done on the essential results, lists all the critical columns that it is recommending. It is recommending the null thresholds. And the software is very powerful and it evolves with your market data. So the software will learn if a certain result is acceptable or not. You can teach it. If you think this particular column, you're willing to tolerate a much higher level of failure, you can simply say this is not a failure and the software will learn. And you can, without depending on the IT, the data steward or the business user can toggle checks on and off, can add columns that they would like to check that the software has not recommended. So the user is ultimately in complete control, with the software doing a major portion of the heavy lifting. 80% of the work you need to do to validate a data, the software will automate it and do it for you. And you can do the small tweaks to get it to the last mile of where you want to get it to. You'll see the same 4 magical things in all the different checks. I'm going to quickly jump to the summary back again. And from the summary, we're going to look at value anomaly. There were a few anomalous records that were found. And the software basically does, it'll take us through the advanced results, where it'll show the different kinds of anomalies listed here that the software looks for. And here is the value anomaly. The software collects a lot of information, including the expected behavior for each of these columns. It is pointing out a value is anomalous because it is dramatically different from the expected behavior. Error records can be downloaded. So as an analyst, you could go and figure out whether it was wrong, whether it needs to be fixed. And it also tells you which part of your data is contributing to these errors. So this gives you a root cause analysis as well. So I'm not going to cover each of this, but happy to talk in detail. If you'd like to, please book a call with us and we can cover more of it in detail. So that's at a very high level, a very quick summary of DataBuck. Now let's quickly go back to the presentation. Now, what you've seen so far is how with just 3 clicks, DataBuck was able to give you data trust scores and a very detailed understanding of what is going wrong and at the different dimensions of data quality. Now, DataBuck will integrate with your catalogs, with your pipelines, and your notification systems. And Cloudera Apache Ranger is your system governance tool of choice. And no matter what your governance tool is, DataBuck is completely open API. Every number that you saw on the dashboard can be exported out to any governance tool, any alerting, or any ticketing system. So what we have seen in general is that the users need data trust metrics to accept or to process the data. Data trust metrics is beginning to gain more traction because trust is becoming very, very important. But scalability cannot be achieved using traditional means. And what DataBuck provides is autonomous, standardized data trust checks. It integrates with Ranger or any governance tool. It allows you to alert when there is low trust in data, and it minimizes data movement, and it keeps the data within your environment. No data ever leaves your firewalls. The software lives and breathes within your firewalls, processes and computes data within your firewalls. You have the ability to pick and choose where the compute should happen. So in summary, FirstEigen's DataBuck measures data trustability. It has helped reduce errors by 70% for all their clients. It increases productivity by 2x, all the while reducing the cost by 50% because of automation. With Cloudera, you need trusted data to get the most out of Cloudera's AI/ML capabilities. And DataBuck steps in to fill in that void, provide you with trusted data. So thank you, and please write to us if you have any questions.